Hello, and welcome to MrDudeManSir. Today, I'm going to be reviewing all of the cards of the latest expansions for Hearthstone, Kobolds and Catacombs, as I've done for the last few expansions. I haven't been able to keep up with my classes and coming out with all the cards as they come out, but I'm going to do all at once, and it's probably better to do this way, so I can just tell you all the cards that are bad and all the cards that I'm hyped for. I will say this, though. Aside from a few classes that I don't usually like playing, there's not a single legendary that I wouldn't be happy with getting. So that's a good plus, because all the other expansions had one that I disliked. So we're starting off with Druid here. Druid has gotten some 4-drop synergy with Oaken Summons and the Ironwood Golem here. They've got a 1-drop spell that does cool stuff, but doesn't draw a card, so it might not be good. But I mean, plus 3 health is really good in health. This most likely will see play in an Auctioneer deck if it sees play. It's not game breaking at all, and it's not that tokeny either. Lesser Jasper Spellstone. Every class is getting a Spellstone, where they'll upgrade twice, usually doubling their effect or adding some to it for every upgrade. Druid's getting a 1-mana one that eventually goes from a Holy Smite to a Fireball for a minion, which is really good. It's very solid. I mean, at the very worst, it's a Holy Smite, which is already a card, and at the best case, it's a Fireball for 1 mana, and Druids already lack removal, and it's very easy to gain 3 armor. They'll do it with their hero power. Like, Oaken Summons instantly completes this quest, and the Druid hero, which you run in every single Druid deck, this basically completes that as well, which is pretty good. So, solid card, probably will see play a lot. Possibly replace Wrath, but I'm not sure. So, Oaken Summons the Ironwood Golem may be good enough, though it is worth mentioning that other than Ironwood Golem and like Tar Creeper, there's not many cards you want to summon off of Oaken Summons there. And similarly, Grizzled Guardian here is complete trash because of that case. They ended up creating Astral Tiger because you want to pull 4-drops every time, but this is a very slow card. It does prevent fatigue, but currently there's Jade Idol for that, so gets outclassed. And a 4-mana 3/5 is too slow to put an even slower card in for slower synergies like Hadronox and N'Zoth in. So just overall too slow, I would think. Now, Greedy Sprite here is good and possibly aggro Druid as well, because it's a 3/1 high attack, and it gains a mana crystal. So in non-Jade decks, you could run this instead of Jade Blossom, or maybe you just run this on top of her for even more ramp and big Druid. A very solid card. Really, really good. Branching Paths is complete trash, I think, because 4 mana draw 2 cards is terrible. 4 mana give your minions +2 attack is a Savage Roar, and 4 mana gain 12 armor is okay, but then you might as well play Oaken Summons, right? I mean, it just doesn't win anywhere. Twig of the World Tree is absolutely insane. So it doesn't want to get removed by weapon removal, because if you play this on turn 4 and then it gets oozed, you have 10 mana crystals to play with on turn 5, and your opponent's going to lose. And at the very worst case, it's kind of like a Coon effect, but you don't invest anything other than the 4 original mana, and it's 5 turns later you can OTK them with like Malygos and other stuff. Ixlid Fungal Lord here can possibly help that, but then again, it's really clunky to fill your mana if your combo is Ixlid and then Malygos, because you want to play Malygos first because that saturates the most of your mana, and then you want to break the twig, and then you want to play 10 more mana worth of stuff, but it doesn't work that way. Maybe this Malygos will see play, but then again, it's also very, very clunky. I'd say it probably would Malygos stuff without the Ixlid there. This card is very comparable to Fandral, where it has lower stats and more health, and it really wants to get removed. And if you don't remove it, you practically lose the game. But whether or not it's viable, speed is the thing to question, and I don't think so. So overall, I think Oaken Summons Iron Golem are pretty solid. Jasper Stone is really solid. Greedy Sprite and Twig of the World Tree are the ones you want to look out for. Ixalit is okay, possibly, but I don't see it working out very well. And just in case you're wondering, right here are the upgraded Spellstones. Now, Hunter is becoming kind of a meme on Reddit because of 2 cards now. To My Side is one. You see how it asks if you have no minions. Same for Rock Dalar here. Now, I don't want to just disagree with the meme just because I want to be a hipster, but it does have potential. Like, I think that if it said something along the lines of if your deck has no more than 5 minions or no more than 3 minions, it would actually be really good. Because there's a Yogg and Log deck that used to exist, and it used to run like Malygos, King's Elic, and other stuff. And if there were a King's Elic-esque card, it would make this no minions based deck really good as well, because you can just fish out your minions, but that doesn't exist. And so you practically have to run a Reno-style no minions deck. And that's going to be rather difficult. However, there's a lot of support for it in this expansion. Crushing Walls is not the best, but if you really are struggling for some removal and Deadly Shot isn't cutting it, you can practically play 2 Deadly Shots because the left and right most minions are going to be random most of the time, and they can possibly even play around it if it gets popular, and it's even worse than just 2 Deadly Shots. Now, the reason I think it's actually going to work out is, or possibly, is because of this Lesser Emerald Spellstone here. You see, 5 mana 12/12 will cost 4 bodies for Hunter on turn 5, where it can easily be acquired on turn 5 because you just play 2 secrets. And in a deck where you're not running any minions, 2 secrets are going to come by very easily. 5 mana 4 3/3 wolves is absolutely insane. And you can just fill your hand with these with Rock Dalar, and it's going like just because you have no minions in pure minion form doesn't mean you can't play aggressively, because your hero power is still really aggressive. Like, Flanking Strike is good tempo. This thing is going to allow you to hit face a lot. This will most likely charge 4 to 5 damage. Rock Dalar's weapons, Eaglehorn Bow will get like 1,000,000 charges from secrets. It's going to play like a mid-range to aggro deck. It's not nearly as bad as you think, though. I will say, To My Side, since it's trying to push an entirely new archetype, basically with two cards in its own, it probably should have been 5 mana. It honestly should have been, but it's still okay as it is. Candle Shot, it's Light's Justice, but with 1 less durability, but you don't take damage. Hunters don't have healing, so that's pretty okay, and it's a 1-drop that you can play. It's probably better than On the Hunt, but maybe you run both. Maybe you don't run Candle Shot because no minion hunter decks are terrible, and you'd only run it in that. But I don't know. It's probably trash. It's honestly probably trash. Cave Hydra over here is pretty solid, but you'd rather run Bear Shark in a deck that would want to run Cave Hydra, so it's probably also trash. Wandering Monster is pretty good. I'd say it's really good because there's a lot of minions nowadays that are going to be 3 mana 4/4s, and summoning that as a new target out of nowhere, it's going to be really good. Seeping Oozling, on the best case, will be a worse Savannah Highmane, I think. And there's not many death rattles that you'd want to pull and put onto a 6-drop that's not Savannah Highmane, so I think Seeping Oozling is not very good either. Now, Katharina Winter Wisp here, it's absolutely insane. It wants to push like a big hunter archetype by Battlecry and Death Rattle Recruit a Beast. By the way, if you haven't been keeping up with Hearthstone, Recruit is a new mechanic where you pull a minion straight out of your deck into play. It's basically like Yasharj. Yasharj can be, at the end of your turn, recruit a minion. I don't know why they didn't change the text to that, but it should be. And a Beast, though usually in Hunter, Beasts probably average a 3-drop, probably a 2-drop. Alley Cat's a 1/1. It's not usually the best, but if you pull a Savannah Highmane or like a King Crush or something bigger, There's like an 8-mana 7/7 beast that is neutral that might actually see play. But yeah, that's very fringe. But the power level of this card is like Aya, but stronger. And Aya is an incredibly powerful card. Katharina Winterwisp is possibly going to be infuriating to play against. Mage is the class that, just by looking at the cards, you know they're going to have a spot in the meta, because they're pretty good. Alright, so Raven Familiar here is a 2-mana 2/2 beast, and it's basically a King's Relic effect for spells. A mage of all classes have the biggest spells, other than like Priest or Druid, but they have powerful spells. And this is trying to push, like all the cards are mostly trying to push a big spell archetype. And Raven Familiar is just going to be an auto-include in those. It's like along the power level of Arcanologist. It's that good, I think. Except with Arcanologist, you have one more stat, and you can play the secret next turn if you have nothing. Raven Familiar is just good, but you might lose tempo because of it. It's not. I don't think it'll be played in Tempo Mage, is the thing. So Arcane Artificer, it's pretty solid. Mage is lacking healing. Maybe it'll see play. It is a very, very dinky card. It'll be played for its effect, not because of its stats. It won't be played on curve, but who knows? Shifting Scroll is probably going to be too inconsistent. It's a random spell every turn. It's, they needed a Shifter Xeris for spells, and bam, there you are. A Lesser Ruby Spellstone. If you play 2 Elementals, and end up 4, you get a Kabbalist's Tome for 2. And that's absolutely insane. Mage are going to be able to generate multitudes of spells. And then with like Leyline Manipulator, which is also an elemental by the way, you're going to be able to discount all of them a literal ton. Ethereal Peddler is a card that does a similar effect. However, rogues don't have quite the amount of synergy with generating random cards. This is also 1 less mana, with keeping the same effect, which is always a good plus, and it has a tag that means a lot in this class. So I think these two are going to go hand in hand and going to be insane. Explosive Runes is really hard to play around, I will say that. Like, if you play Explosive Runes against the control deck that's low on health, they die because they have to play a small minion and then hope it's not Explosive Runes and hope it's like Mirror Entity, or you play a big minion and then it dies. Well, it's actually, like, it's like Snipe, but Snipe got countered by small minions, this one doesn't. Like, if you're up against a Warlock Zoo deck, you kill their next play and wound the Warlock even more than they've already been doing to themselves. Deck of Wonders is very inconsistent, though it is worth saying that the spell is 5 mana, and Raven Familiar can fish the extra scrolls that you put into your deck. And it's also worth mentioning the random spells can be any class. So, completely RNG. Maybe it's fun. It probably won't see play, but I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. Dragon's Fury here. Dragon's Fury, I think, is going to be insane. Like, if you can get along the lines of where your average spell cost is 4, this is a 5-mana Flame Strike, basically. Or, even better, if you have Blizzard, it's 6 damage to everything, 7 damage to everything. If for some reason you want to play Pyroblast, it's 10 damage to everything. The biggest board clear in the game, other than like Deathwing or Twisting Nether. But Dragon's Fury is a very solid card. Alunath is a 6-mana Nourish. The turn you play it, you instantly draw the card. So at the very least, even if it gets removed, you draw 3 cards. And then for the rest of the game, while this weapon's up, you draw 3 cards every turn. So usually, if you've learned from things like Keening Banshee or Fell Reaver, I think it is, if you mill cards, it doesn't matter as long as you kill your opponent before you would go into fatigue. So that sort of play style wants to play with Tempo Mage. Though, you also want to draw a lot of cards in Exodia Mage. It probably won't see play in there because you're going to mill playing this card. Have you ever gotten to the situation where, well, either you went full Northshire and draw too many cards and you can't stop, or you play 2 Mana Tides on the board as a Shaman and then you don't know how to stop drawing cards and you mill? That's going to happen quite often with this card. Your opponent might not even want to remove it with his weapon removal, just so he mills you. However, this other legendary card, as Mage, is insanely broken. So every time you play a Deck of Wonders, or a Dragon Fury, or a Flame Strike, or a Blizzard, you basically will eventually summon an extra 5/5 on your board. And mages that want to play a bunch of spells removal will not play many minions, so this will get full value of full board of 5/5 dragons, which, by the way, doesn't get counted by priest because Dragonfire Potion doesn't hurt dragons, so you will have 30 damage to kill your opponent with, at the very least. Mage, easily to see, they're very solid. We're gonna see some of them. Paladin has some odd cards I'm not sure how to identify. So, they have some early game cards. So this card is very slow tempo, but it helps hand buffs, and it also helps the Silver Hand Recruit synergy. It's just that it's a very slow card, being a 2-mana 1/1. It possibly see play and make hand buff Paladin good again, and it also will help because Crystal Lion here is really insane card. I mean, it's like Thing from Below, but better. The only bad side is that you have to control the Silver Hand Recruits, and it doesn't retroactively work. So this synergy might be pretty good. Benevolent Jin is it's very comparable to that Shaman Elemental Hot Spring Guardian, I think it is, except this has a recurring effect and doesn't have taunt. This is a very solid card. It helps with the Paladin Spellstone, which is possibly the worst Spellstone out of any of them, but still rather solid. Unidentified Maul here is a 3-mana 2/2. It will gain one of 4 effects whenever you draw it. It'll just like poof on your screen and be like, boom, text is there. And it'll be one of 4 possible texts. Level up here, it depends on the tokens. If token with Silver Hand Recruits work, it might, but it's also worth saying that Quartermaster is this card, but better, with a 2/5 body. Yeah. But, I don't know, maybe the taunt means something in this meta. Also, Call to Arms here. So, Recruit 3 is equivalent to drawing 3 cards and putting them into play. So, drawing 3 is worth around 5 mana. So, already insane. That card, I mean, they have to cost 2 or less. So you basically just put like 3 2s onto the board. And maybe one of them's this dude. And then you can actually run spells with hand buffs and tempo your opponent with level up or some weird thing. Honestly, I'm not sure if this card will work out. I think more mid-rangey Shaman will work other than this one. But it's a very strong card for what it's trying to do. The 2 Paladin Legendaries, I'll start with Lynessa first because she's easy. She's going to be really good, and the reason is because all you need is 1 Spike Ridge Steed played in the game, and she's a 7-mana 3/7 that Death Rattle summon a 2/6 taunt, and her own body is taunt. So that's already pretty good. And if any other spell you cast is this icing to the cake. Valanir here is very comparable to Hammer of Twilight, as Hammer of Twilight has the same stats, costs 1 less mana, and summons a 4/2. The bonus of Valanir is maybe you have like Doppelgangsters or other hand buff synergies, and then this 4/2 plus is better than a 4/2 minion. And also, when this dies, whenever the minion you buff dies, it instantly gets re-equipped. So it's kind of like Tentacles for Arms, where it has infinite value, as long as the minion doesn't get silenced or, you know, anything. Like priests are gonna be things, and this is going to not be good against priests. So is this girl. She's gonna be a 1/1 against priests. But Tentacles for Arms is not only a less statted weapon, but when Tentacle Arms dies, it goes back to your hand, you have to replay it. And this just gets re-equipped. So both of these cards are rather really solid cards. They just easily get countered. Like, their counters are very defined. And right here are all the effects that you can get off of them. The best one is probably the Purifier's Maul. So priests have some hits and some misses, and when they say hits, I mean probably the most busted cards in the set right here. Duskbreaker is Hellfire on a 3/3 dragon for dragon decks, and Psychic Scream is the best board clear ever created. Because it's like a Twisting Nether for 1 less mana that also voids Death Rattles. The only downside is you can't win Fatigue, but priests never went for Fatigue anyways, because they plan on bursting you down. So absolutely insane cards there. They also have another dragon card, so it's like a Vol'jin for attack. So you basically make an enemy minion irrelevant, and you make this dude as threatening as the card that you made irrelevant was. It's not going to be like deck defining. It's not like Dragon at OP level or Duskbreaker level, but it's rather solid. You'll definitely run it in a dragon deck. Twilight's Call is probably too slow for summoning 2 1/1s with death rattle effects. Unidentified Elixir is probably the same. Psionic Probe, however, since the spell is straight from your opponent's deck, it's going to be at least the card they felt was good enough to run, and as long as it's not like a Cold Blood, it's going to be rather okay. It's okay. Rather solid, especially for the other synergies they have. Speaking of the synergies, these 2 cards both trigger on playing a literal load of spells at the same time. This one doesn't need to be at the same time, but Dragon Soul does. I'll go after this. So this is for big priests. No other priest will really want to try with it. But big priest is majority spells and like 5 minions, so they will probably end up retroactively completing this. This has to be in your hand if you want to upgrade it, though. It's worth mentioning. So you can't like play 10 spells and then draw this and top deck it and resurrect 4 minions. You have to have it in your hand. But I mean, summoning like the Lich King, Ysera, and 2 Obsidian statues for 7 mana is insane, and it's going to be the end game for the big priests. Temporis here is rather bad because the majority of the time when you play this, you're going to die, and then if you don't die, you'll probably kill them. So it's like, I see you can't kill me, maybe let me kill you. It's a very odd card. I'm not sure if it's going to see play, because you already have OTK potential. You don't need 2 turns to do it. And Dragon Soul might be too slow. It is only 3 mana to equip, though. And if you plan on playing Psionic Probe and stuff, summoning a 5/5 dragon, pretty solid. I don't think it's super high power level, though. And here are the elixirs that you can get. Nothing too insane. So Rogue finally is getting secrets. They got 3 this expansion. It wouldn't really be secret unless they got at least 3. So they did. They got 1 that helps combo Rogue, another one that helps combo Rogue, and one that's a different betrayal, but this is probably the weaker one. These 2, if combo Rogue like Malygos Rogue sees play again, they will definitely see play in it. They got the Kobold Illusionist for that combo-esque. So these 3 cards kind of go in like tandem with each other. And then Elven Minstrel, since it draws specifically minions, you can manipulate that to draw Auctioneers and Malygos quite easily. And it's also a rather good tempo Rogue card, because it's kind of like 4 mana 3/2, which is already a card, and then you draw 2 extra cards on top of that, and possibly Keleseth stuff happened, and then this is like a 4/3, and you draw more buffed minions. It's pretty good. It's a rather solid card. Like, it's not like an auto include, but if your deck supports it, you might as well run it. Same for Felderai Strider. If you're already drawing a ton of cards, if you're playing like Malygos Rogue, or Tempo Rogue, Miracle Rogue, play this card, Felderai Strider, and then you'll get random 4/4s every now and then, on top of an already good body. Seems solid to me. Now, Lesser Onyx Spellstone starts off as a deadly shot, and then works its way up to 3 deadly shots. Deadly shot will be much better in a rogue, because hunters can't manipulate the board as much as rogues can with their tempo, and a lesser Onyx Spellstone that kills 3 random minions is going to make your opponent cry, and probably you're going to win the game directly after that. It's just really hard to play Death Rattle cards, and you probably don't even want to. So lesser Onyx Spellstone probably isn't going to see play other than meme decks, sadly enough. King's Bane is 1 mana, 1/3 weapon, so it's kind of like Sword of Justice level. But the effect is that no matter what buff you put onto it, it'll stick around. And you can draw it with like the Cavern Shiny Finder, and then they get this 5 attack, 3 durability weapon for 1 mana that has life steal and insane stuff going on. This actually provides consistent healing for Rogue, oddly enough, through weapons, which they needed if they're going to play a weapon deck. They have a weapon that recurs, so that's also something they need for a weapon deck. And it can be the only weapon you run, so that's something that Cavern Shiny Finder can do rather well with. Sonya Shadow Dancer is very... It's kind of like a Cult Master, but it draws minions that you have on the board and puts them into your hand. So instead of drawing straight from your deck, which is probably better for rogues, you get like copies of like maybe Elven Minstrel would be good, and then maybe Cavern Shiny Finder is okay. It's a solid card. Like it's not hopeless. As I've said, most legendaries in this set aren't hopeless, but it's hard to see whether you'd want to play this or some other card that has more synergy. Let's say most of them are terrible. Like it's possible that the Paladin, Mage, Priest ones just don't see play. I mean, if we're going strictly by power level though, Hunter's broken. Hunter's weapon is broken though. Oh yeah, Twig of the World Tree is broken. Yeah. Twig of the World Tree is probably the most powerful one. Shaman is finally getting a different identity, though it's also sticking with the evolution identity some. Its new identity is Totems. Around the Karazhan era, they tried pushing the Totem Shaman in there, like, man, this is too hard, I don't want to. So then they made, like, Evolve Shaman. However, right now they're trying again to make multiple different, like, if you look at these cards, you can see 3 different archetypes. One of them is a big shaman, one of them is a totem-based shaman, and one of them is evolution shaman. Some of these cards, specifically one in mind, will scare the crap out of me in every meta it's played in, if it ever sees play. Hopefully not, but it will scare me a lot if it does see play. So Kobold Hermit, it's not the worst. Like, it's a 2 mana 1/3 with possibly insane synergy at the worst. And then if you get like Healing Totem, it's pretty good. There's also, you can do this, then press Hero Power, then get the totem that this wasn't. You have 2 totems for like Windshear Stormcaller, which power level is off the charts, by the way. Crushing Hand is very good for Control Shaman, similar for Lesser Sapphire Spellstone, where you want to like put that Death Rattle resummon this minion on it, and then Lesser Sapphire Spellstone, and bam, you have 3 dudes that resummon themselves when they die. Insane. Healing Rain has been like a card on the custom Hearthstone Reddit forever. It just heals you randomly all minions on your side of the board and face. It's a rather solid card. Like, Druids have a 3 mana heal 8 to 1 target. This is nearly strictly better than that, because not only does it heal more, but you also fill up all of your minions on your board most likely. And Healing Rain also works in Control Shaman. It's not nearly... It's possibly even better than the Joust healing wave. I'd say it's probably better than that, because this will always at least heal you 12 and stuff. It's a good card. Primal Talisman. You'd probably want to run Echo, that one Echo card instead of this one. Though it also depends on how much you really want to get Windshear Stormcaller out. Because summoning Alakir, if you have all 4 basic totem, insane. Because this is already a 5 mana 5/5, and then you summon an 8-drop with Charge, Wind Fury, Divine Shield, Taunt, and then you can do that again. Then you can also run, like, you can somehow end up playing like 5 Alakirs in a game from like summoning elemental synergy and having one, and then these dudes, and then murmuring elemental if somehow you were, because usually you won't have all 4 totems on turn 5. You can like play this and then play Windshield Stormcaller and then summon 2 Alakirs with charge, and then if you have enough mana, then you can Flame Tongue them and 20 face damage. They'll probably still get countered by Priest, because Priest has so many small board clears, and possibly Warlock will board clear them left and right. But against decks that won't be able to, man, you're in for some insect swatting. So this card, Unstable Evolution, is the card that scares me, as I mentioned before. And the reason it scares me is though 2-drop slots have the most minions in them, there are 2 minions that will instantly win you the game any time that you get them randomly off of an evolution effect. So like you can play Evolve, or you can play, well, you can't play a hero because you won't get 2 drops. But you could even Unstable Evolution a random 1-drop. And if for some reason you end up getting Sorcerer's Apprentice or Radiant Elemental, you'll get a full board of 10-drop minions. And that scares me. Because if on, so turn 2, you totem, and then turn 3, you like Unstable Evolution your totem into a Sorcerer's Apprentice. You can then like totem, and then Unstable Evolution your totem all the way up to like Yasharj, and then win the game. It's such a RNG based card, but on average it won't be that, and it'll be a worse Evolve effect. That's worth mentioning that on 10 mana, if you just top deck this, you can totem and then summon like a 9-drop. Hopefully Ysera. Pretty good. It's a solid card. It'll probably end up fitting its way into Evolve Shaman somewhere. Because it's also like that insurance effect for if you get a bad Evolve. Because they've also been nerfing Evolve Shaman with a bunch of 1/1s in every mana slot. Rune Spear. It's an 8 mana 3/3, so it's similar to another weapon you'll see in the future. And it will discover a spell, so it can only be class spells. And it also has more consistency for stuff that can be randomly targeted, so hopefully you get board clears or something like Primal Talisman. Or Lesser Sapphire Spellstone, summon a friendly copy of 1 minion isn't that bad. But if you do get a spell that overloads, you will get the overload effect if it stays the way that Yogg is, and I'm pretty sure it does. So 8 mana 3/3, it's around the cost of like a 4-cost weapon, and then it's rather slow. But you can get some, like, possibly 3 board clears off of it. It's not hopeless, as people thought it was when it first was revealed, though it is on the weaker side of weapons. Grumble World Shaker. So, it's an odd card, because it's also overstated for its mana cost, so they know that you're losing tempo, and hopefully you'll regain it back with the extra stat this thing has. It's an elemental. So you'll probably play this instantly in any elemental deck, because a lot of the powers that elementals have is in their battle cry, at least in Shaman anyways. And you can get like brothers into brothers, the brothers heed my call, and it adds the extra grind that elemental Shaman needed. And it's also pretty good as like a heal for Big Shaman, if that becomes a thing again. Which I hope so. I really love Big Shaman. Again, it's not a card that if you look at it, it's not broken or inherently not powerful. It's very hard to evaluate. So Warlock is getting some meme cards and some interestingly good cards. So let's start off with the meme card, Rin the First Disciple. So it's a 6 mana 3/6 taunt, and when it dies, so you have to wait for this thing to get 6 damage dealt to it after you've already played a 6 mana 3/6 taunt. And then after that, you go down these series of playing 5 mana spells, summoning a 2/2 within a slightly larger man, and eventually you can destroy your opponent's deck after paying an additional 10 mana. So that's why I say it's a meme card. I mean, if for some reason there were a ton of super slow control decks and you high rolled with this card in order to get the exact thing on turn 10 off, which I don't even think that's possible, but it's not hopeless, but it's mostly a meme card. I'll have some fun with it if I open it, which is why I said I don't really hate any legendary in this set. So, additionally, they got these two cards here, which usually go in tandem with each other. And this one is the first ever card that just straight up draws a card for 1 mana that you can always play. I mean, Power Word Shield is that, but you can't always play it unless you want to buff an enemy minion sometimes, and that isn't always an option. At the slight downside of damaging your hero for 2. And similar to this, it's overstated Taunt, which is good for the slight downside of 2. These are good in Zoo decks and Control Warlock. Specifically this one in Control Warlock. This might not. But they are rather solid cards, and this is also a demon that you can bring back with your hero now. Dark Pact is a rather interesting card. The obvious synergy here is like this thing here, Possessed Lackey. Possessed Lackey being a worse Void Caller a lot of the time, but it does pull it straight from your deck. And this is a 6 mana, pull a random demon, restore 8 health for 1 mana. It depends on how much Warlock wants to have for healing, and how many of these Void Lords you want to be running. Speaking of Void Lord, I love it. I love this card. 9 mana, 3/9. It's a very, very good statted taunt minion. And then you also summon 3 more demons to bring back for your hero. And it's also, this is 9 mana, so if you already have 9 mana, do you know what else is 9 mana will play this dude for free? Cruel the dude, Cruel. That one. Where if you only have 1 ofs. And they added more demons for that deck, so I'm looking forward to some demon lock with 1 ofs. Not with Skull of the Man RI though, because this card sucks. It basically does a 1 of Cruel effect, and you can accidentally pull your Cruel with it and then cry. And it also gets destroyed. Also, Cataclysm here, interesting card. It's a Deathwing Battlecry for 4 mana. I heard in Zoo, if you have a Malkazar's Imp on the board and you play this dude, you'll draw how many cards that you discarded from your hand. So that's pretty good. Maybe that'll be a combo in Warlock, but in like Control Warlock. But Control Warlock usually has cards they want to keep around in their hand, and this probably won't see play in that. But I mean, it depends. It's really hard to evaluate. It depends on the meta. It depends on if the deck can support it or not. I'd say it'll possibly see play in Zoo if the Malkazar's Imp synergy works, and it won't see play if the Malkazar's Imp synergy doesn't work. That's about it. And Hooked Reaver here, 4 mana 7/7 taunt if your health is below 15. That can happen a lot in a Control Warlock and in the Zoo Warlock. 4 mana 7/7s are good, so in any situation you can get that, especially with these cards where you damage yourself. This card is rather good. Lesser Amethyst Spellstone, 4 mana, deal 3, heal 3. So it's like a Holy Fire, a little bit worse. And then when you upgrade it by taking any damage, so just tap once. Well, no, it needs to be from your cards. So play like a Kobold Librarian or this dude, and then you can have a Holy Fire for 4, and then eventually you work your way up to 7 damage, heal 7. And Warlock with healing is a thing to be reckoned with. So Blizzard is like, hey, Control Warrior, can you be a thing? So every single card here is basically a Control Warrior card. So Gather Your Party is a Control Warrior card. This card here, Control Warrior card. Control Warrior, Control Warrior, Control Warrior, Control Warrior, Control. The only card that isn't strictly a Control Warrior card is this Kobold by Barbarian dude, and even he might, but this effect here takes up its actual attack. So you won't be able to have this effect trigger and attack with it. Though it can attack face, and a 3 mana 4/4 is pretty good. It'll probably see not play because it has much better cards to play in like Aggro Warriors, the 3-drop slot, and it's probably not good enough in Control Warrior. However, I will say that Woe Cleaver here, can pull some cool things. I'm not sure if you have enough effects to run Woe Cleaver and gather your party, because like you just don't have that many big minions. Like you can run your Sarah, your Shars, these other 4/12 taunt dragons. You can run like Primordial Drakes, but there's always the odds that you just draw them. And then you also might want to run this dude, but then the anti-synergy here. This card here is pretty solid. It gets countered by Priest every single board clear the Priest has, basically. But it's rather solid, because you'll already be probably playing this in a Control Warrior. You'll probably play this in a Control Warrior. And then this will be 7 mana, 15/15. I mean, overall, Taunt, or Big Warrior, Control Warrior again, is getting some interesting cards, but very, very slow cards. Maybe you can mix some of these slowness with the current Sleep with the Fishes, Whirlwind, Pyromancer stuff, and then have like insane board clears. And it's also worth mentioning that Reckless Flurry is pretty reckless in the fact that you can just deal 10 damage to yourself because you just destroy all your armor. It is a very powerful board clear, though. I'm glad they're printing board clears like this, but Sleep with the Fishies might be better. Here are the neutral legendaries, and I should have mentioned that there was one legendary I really, really do not want to get, and it's King Togwaggle, because this card is purely only for the memes. It's only because the dungeon run exists and this dude is there, and he's a super fat oaf meme. You don't want to open him. However, I read the card, but we already got Baron the Fox. He's practically a meme as well. But Zola the Gorgon, Master Okar, and this 4-mana 20/20 here. This card also scares me, because it's possible that you just top deck 3 candles right after he plays this, and then you lose the game because he just played a 4-mana 20/20, and then you cry, and then you wonder why you continue playing Hearthstone when they can play 4-mana 20/20s. But overall, the neutral legendary slot is pretty solid. Zola the Gorgon is kind of like a panda effect, but you also keep this body out, and you keep the body that you target it with, and you get the bonus of getting the golden copy. If you're playing a combo deck, you might just want to play a panda instead, and if you're playing a panda, why? So Zola the Gorgon might just be in that situation, but it's a really solid value card, at least. The biggest mention on the neutral legendary slot is Master Okar here. He is 9 mana, and he summons a 1, 2, 3 attack minion. So, I mean, there's a meme Warlock deck that apparently has been doing okay from Disguised Toast that ran Meat Wagon. That's a 1 attack weapon. Dude. I'm not sure what other 1 attack dudes you want to run, but that's deck building later on. 2 attack people are pretty good. There's that one later on dude down there at the bottom that recruits a dragon, which I'll get to why he sucks in a second. And then a 3 attack minion can be like that Druid 8-drop that has 3 attack, or some other card that I can't quite think of that is good synergy. You could also bring Hadronox. Hadronox good too. So in the epic slot, there are some interesting cards, some cards that will probably be auto includes if you play a certain deck, such as Arcane Tyrant, which is if you're going to play Mage, they're probably always going to run Arcane Tyrant. Same for Druid. But other than that, this is the least good epic expansion, I think, out of all of them. Most of these are very seldomly going to see play as tech cards, and that's good, because like there's no primordial drakes here where you have to craft it and waste like 400 dust because you're never going to open epics ever in a pack, and you have to get 2 of them and then you cry. However, Carnivorous Cube here is really good, has synergy if you run Death Rattle stuff, then you can summon 2 more copies of it and then have those Death Rattles trigger. It's a rather solid card from instead of what it looks like. Rummaging Kobold is like, wow, we really don't want our weapons to get destroyed because we built an expansion on our weapons, but this dude sucks, you're never gonna play him. Spiteful Summoner is really, really good. So, let's just look at this. So a 4/4 is around 3.5 mana. So as long as you get like a 3-drop spell, it's going to break even because 2 bodies, 3, 4 mana is pretty solid. However, where it can like pull like a Free from Amber or some Flame Strike or some other thing and summon a random 8, 7, 6 drop, it's going to be rather powerful because people are this good. Similar for this one, Grand Archivist, but Grand Archivist has a lower power level because it plays your spells randomly on a 5-drop body, so the effect is 3. Like Free from Amber usually got like some pretty bad options, and you pick the one that was the best. This would just pick randomly. You could get like a Yogg-Saron on accident, but even still, like if you get a Yogg-Saron, it's pretty solid. I just say that if you're going to run Grand Archivist, you should remove it and put Spiteful Summoner in. Basically, I don't think Grand Archivist is at the power level we need out of an 8-drop. Dragon Hatcher over here is a 9-mana 2/4 dude. Lol. Never play him. Dragons also have mostly their effect from Battle Cries, and you don't want to pull. Well, with this sort of effect, you always want to pull a 9-drop dragon, and the best one to do that with is Deathwing Dragonlord and Ysera, and every other dragon you pull is going to be very bad for you, especially when you're already paying 9 mana for something. A Void Ripper here is one of the only neutral demons other than like Illidan and Malkazar and like one other dude. But this effect is pretty strong. It's pretty interesting. It's a confuse. I mean, in control Warlocks, you could run this card over a Alchemist if for some reason you wanted to counter Doomsayers. I mean, Zoo will run this if they want to counter like Mage Doomsayers, because Mage is possibly going to be a control deck and rather popular. And it's rather solid because you can bring it back. It has anti-recruit synergy if you're going to run it in like recruit and demons and stuff, but I don't think you're going to do that. It's pretty good. I also ran an Alchemist in a Mage deck once to see how it would work out in the meta. It turned out pretty good because you can swap their high health, low attack creatures and then like deal less damage to them and like kill higher threats with less damage, and it's pretty good. Maybe it'll be the case. It's a rather solid card for 3/3. Shimmering Courser is basically meant for paladins, but if spell buff paladin is a thing, they probably wouldn't even run this. It's not the best for a 4-mana 3/3 that's probably just going to be traded into and then die. Corridor Creeper, I don't know why, it's a grub, right? Every other grub in the game is a beast, so why isn't this? I don't know. But it's too high cost. There was a Druid card that got less cost every time you played a beast, and it sucked. This has less stats, same amount of mana, but it's easily triggerable, and it still probably sucks. So in this slot, there's some interesting cards like the Feral Gibberer here. The Gibberer, you can gibber infinitely if you just smack your opponent in the face and then play another Gibberer, and then you have another board full of Gibberers that whenever you attack, you get a handful of Gibberers, and then you wonder why you played this card because you have a full hand of 1/1s that don't deal that much threat to your opponent, and then they board clear it, and then you're sad. And don't play this card. Lone Champion is really, really, really good. For a 3-mana 2/4, it's only losing 1 stat point because the general is 3/4. And you can get Taunt and Divine Shield if you don't have any other minions. And a lot of decks, like the big Mage or Priest, don't want to run minions early game. And this card is going to possibly replace Tar Creeper in those sort of decks because you have to sacrifice one dude and then deal with the rest of the body after you pop the Divine Shield. Though the thing about Tar Creeper is it has 3 attack and that's really good. Divine Shield could be better in some circumstances. Hungry Eaton here is a 4/10 for 6. So if you kind of rearrange these slots here, you have kind of like 7/7 for 6 if you just rearrange them. So you're gaining 1 stat point and taunt on a really good stat body, but you summon a 2-drop for your opponent, and the 2-drop is usually a 3/2 to a 2/2. And if it's a 3/2, you have a 6-mana 4/7 with taunt, and that's kind of like that Ancient Blossom dude, right? You don't run this card either. Firbolg Mossbinder actually has some potential. It does get overshadowed by things like Cobalt Scalebane and Bone Mare, but at the best, you can basically play this as a 5 mana 7/7 or 5 mana 6/6 because you'll get like +5/+5 here, which is pretty good, pretty solid. I'm not sure if it's on the power level we need in Constructed though. Ebon Dragonsmith is probably too slow. You don't really want to get your weapons out that much to get removed anyways. And Gravel Snout Knight, too slow. I mean, again, if you summon a 1-drop, that's a 2/1. This will be a 2/1, and then he's wasted the amount of goodness this card was. Kobold Monk is, well, it makes your hero immune to spells. However, you know what also does that if you have enough life to not instantly die? Priest of the Feast. It's a 4 mana 3/6 that actually has a good effect, and it basically has taunt for spells. Kobold Monk may see play in other decks that don't quite have that scary of a 4-drop like that, but I don't think so. Scorpomatic is a 2 mana 1/2 that destroys a 1 or less attack minion. Its power level is so low, even if it does kill something, I don't think it's good enough. And Shrieking Mushroom here, at the end of your turn, summon a random 1-cost minion. It could actually be good for tokens because Shaman has the Primal Fin Totem, and this will generally summon something better than a 1/1 on average. And it's also a 1/2 body. I mean, it's not as innocent as it looks. I'll say that. Though 3 health. Wait, does the totem have 3 health? The totem does have 3 health. So 3 health is much better than 2. It's much easier to deal 2 than it is 3. But Shrieking Mushroom is a force to be reckoned with. Alright, so on to the common cards. Usually common cards are trash or pack fillers, but for the most part, there's nothing that is completely hopeless. In most cases, they actually experiment with some interesting things. So Guild Recruiter here, if you're going to recruit a minion with 4 or less, you'll do it in Druid, and Druid has a better way to recruit 4 or less. In most other cases, 4-drops aren't worth just using this card for, but it actually is above average if you do pull a 4-drop, because it's like drawing a card and playing it. So it's not hopeless. Silver Vanguard, though, I think is hopeless. A 7 mana 3/3 that can pull an 8-cost minion on... if it was a Battle Cry, though, it would be really good. But Death Rattle just means you can ignore it, and it'll get ignored. That's it. Hoarding Dragon here. So, in Tempo Land, this is really, really good. Because a 5/6 is much better than a 5/5. And it's kind of like Keening Banshee's a 4 mana 5/5. Except Keening Banshee has an immediate drawback, if you consider it a drawback of milling cards. This dude doesn't have an immediate drawback. However, if your opponent happens to be a rogue, this Death Rattle is basically give your opponent 2 mana and draw 2 cards, which is really bad for you. However, potentially the tempo you gain from this 4 mana 5/6 is enough to offset that. It's a solid dragon. It's better than Hungry Dragon by far. Cursed Disciple is a Magma Rager, and for 1 more mana you get another Magma Rager. And because you get that 2 mana discount somewhere in there, about an extra Magma Rager, it's not hopeless. It's also worth mentioning that, like, you know, druids can get two quests triggers off of it. Not that that matters, because Quest Druid sucks. Fungalmancer is like a worse... what is it? The Disappear dude that buffs a dragon, murloc, and a beast. It's basically a worse version of that. It has less potential and less main stats, so it's probably not going to see play. Sleepy Dragon is a big dude that you probably play in big decks. You might want to play this in Shaman big. You might want to play this in big Druid, big Priest. It's a rather solid card. And it's not strictly worse than Ysera, because that's taunt. Ysera doesn't. Ysera is a slow card. Sleepy Dragon is usually a fast one, even though he's a little sleepy. Kobold Apprentice is a 3 mana 2/1 that plays Arcane Missiles. Its power level probably isn't high enough to play in Constructed. Similar for a Boisterous Bard, it probably isn't strong enough for Constructed, even though the power level, the battle cry, is quite okay. In Arena, it's an okay card. Corrosive Sludge is like, wow, we made these legendary weapons. Let's make more weapon removal, because people need that, right? No, we don't need it. Please don't. They already did it. They already made Corrosive Sludge. But the thing is, if you run Corrosive Sludge, you'll probably take it out and run Harrison instead. So, maybe it doesn't break everything too much. I really wish they made, like, anti-weapon removal, but they didn't. So, Dire Mole is possibly better than Enchanted Raven. A 1/3 for token decks is much better than a 2/2. Like, much better. It'll usually stay alive for whatever buffs or shenanigans you want to do with it. It's also a beast, so, I mean, maybe it'll replace Alley Cat in, like, Hunter, because, like, 1/3 is that really good stat line. Dragonslayer is like, wow, dragons are going to be OP. Let's make a fireball on the 4/3. Dude, this dude's insane. Like, why would they make this card? They have to anticipate dragons being so OP. This is also the definition of what a tech card should be. In the past, it would be something like deal 2 damage to, like, a dragon or something. But now they're like, well, this is a tech card. People aren't going to run it unless it has something cool on it. It's fireball a dragon. So, like, you tempo out their Draconid OP and have a 4/3. I really enjoy this card. It's really solid. Now, Fungal Enchanter here. If you're going to run Earthen Ring Fireseer, you probably just run Fungal Enchanter, because it's like, you only miss 1 healing on your face or whatever you want, but it heals everything on your board. It's possibly a Shaman-esque card if they want to spam tokens, and if other mid-range decks want to heal a bit. Maybe a Dragon Priest wants to run this and play like Northshire, then Fungal Enchanter, then feel happy that they drew an entire hand of cards. Green Jelly is an odd card. I think that its main stats are too low to justify the slow summoning of 1/2 oozes with Taunt. So I don't think it'll see much play. It's comparable to Sludge Belcher, except the main body has less stats and doesn't have Taunt. But it does summon the ooze immediately. I don't think it's good. The Plated Beetle, though, is rather solid. It's better than Friendly Bartender on the average case. And it's also good to play proactively on turn 2, because Friendly Bartender would usually heal you when you're already full. This dude just puts armor over top of you, and it's a beast if for some reason you're a deck that wants to play armor and have beast synergy. Pretty good card. Sewer Crawler is like a reversed Razorfen Hunter, and it probably won't see play. Shroom Brewer is like a slightly larger man of Earthen Ring Farseer, and so it depends on the meta of whether you want a faster heal or a slightly bigger man. Sneaky Devil probably won't see play. It's a raid leader that costs 1 more and has stealth. It probably isn't the best. If it were 1 less mana, though, it'll probably be really, really good, though. Toothy Chest is another dude to summon off of your meat wagon, but it's probably too slow to do so. Trog Gloom Eater is like that 5 mana 2/5 poisonous dude that we already have, but on a poisonous man attack doesn't matter, and Taunt is really good on a poisonous minion with high health, and this is probably going to break Arena Crypts because I probably get really mad about it, but it's a really solid card. I don't think it'll see playing Constructed, though. Here's that one beast that I was talking about that might make Recruit Hunter pretty good, because you play this man, and it's an 8 mana 7/7, so it's already a rather large threat, right? And then if you kill it, you also have to board clear, because it fills the board with grubs, and grubs are probably beasts. I mean, this dude's a beast. Grub probably a beast, and it threatens Hunter shenanigans with beasts. Wax Elemental is like an Annoyotron, but 1 less mana and 1 less attack. it's a cantrip card that doesn't draw, so it's probably not worth it. And Stone Skin Basilisk, though bad and constructed, it will probably it on average will be better than Wasp, right? And it's probably going to be a rather good card in Arena, but not in constructed. So that has been my take on the entire expansion as a whole. My decks I'm going to be having fun trying out, at least, are the Totem Shaman, because I've always tried Totem Shaman every expansion. I'm not going to try Big Priest, because that's probably going to see play anyways. I'm going to try, like, Randomonium Mage. No Minion Hunter is probably going to be my favorite, though. I've always wanted to play Yogg and Load again with no minions, except Malygos, but I guess I have to sacrifice my Malygos love. But anyways, thank you for watching, and goodbye.